naturally, people want your help and they start asking for your help. And it starts to become more and more, how do you tactfully shift that towards getting paid sessions instead of just saying, hey, you should be paying me for this help, which probably won't really bring them in. This is Mark Silver with Heart of Business, and I see this dynamic quite a lot where people show up in public, knowing what they know, doing what they do, and naturally, of course, people want their help. And I'm guessing that you have a generous heart, and of course you want to help people. But then it starts to feel burdensome, and you're giving too much, and really, it should be a paid session. At some point, it needs to turn into a paid session. How do you shift that without pissing people off, without feeling like you're being greedy? What is the shift there? And I want to give a shout out to my colleague, George Cow, who was asking this and being with this on a Facebook post, and there's a link to the Facebook thread that I had contributed to also, that I think is, there's a lot of interesting comments and back and forth there, so I think it's worthwhile taking a look at. I've got the link below. But the way that I do this is actually something that I've learned from a bunch of friends who do improv. And there is a theory in improv, or an approach in improv, that is the yes and approach. If you're doing improv theater, improvisational theater, where there's no script and you're just kind of making it up as you go along, there's an approach or a practice where if somebody does something on stage, you never say no. You never say no. You never say, don't do it. No, I want to do that. It's like, oh, I found a fish. You didn't find a fish. You found you don't make somebody else wrong, is really the essence of it. And I think that that's a really good practice in life, is to not make people wrong, especially when they're asking for help. Instead, you bring a yes and approach. Yes, you found a fish, and whatever you're going to add to the piece. So when people are starting to ask you for help, when people start to ask me for help, I always start out with, oh, I'm so glad that you're asking for help. It's really hard to ask for help. A lot of times we get shamed for asking for help or for needing help. And so I always want to encourage people when they're asking for help. And then I bring in the and. And what you're asking is really worthy of needing help. Like, the fact that you're asking this tells me that you really are in a situation where you could really use help. And I want to tell you that I don't want you to end up in a worse position than you are. And I would need to ask a whole bunch of questions. People ask me sometimes, like, well, how do I make my website better? Or how do I, fill this class? Or how do I, all of these questions that are actually really, really large questions that have a lot of pieces involved. And I say to them, yeah, I think you do need some help with that. And in order to give you accurate help that's actually helpful, that will get you results, I would need to ask a bunch of questions and really get a lot more information. And then I would need to, play with you around creating something that would actually help you. And we're getting into territory that if you really do want this help, I think we need to do it inside of a session. So did you see how I did that? I didn't make them wrong. I didn't say, stop trying to get free advice off of me, buddy. Because that's not where I'm coming from. And that's probably not where they're coming from, really. That's not what's in their heart. They're just trying to get something done. But I am gently helping them understand that the question that they're asking is much bigger than they think. And it involves a lot more pieces than they might be imagining. And then I invite them into the deeper container of, yeah, let's get you that help. Yes, and this is what the help would look like. So this is one of those little simple tips that I think can really shift your relationship with people who are asking for help, and you might end up with more clients. So, how do you handle it? Do you handle it differently? What do you find to be effective? And do you have any questions about what I'm saying? This is Mark Silver with Heart of Business, and I hope that you found this nourishing and really helpful. Peace.